Honorable Junet, thank you so much for this time to talk to you. And we want to start by looking at the first term of President Uhuru Kenyatta and the second one. And I remember in the opposition, you had this very consistent battle against the Jubilee administration in the first term. How was it for you having to deal with an administration you wanted to get out of power?
It was not easy. It was never easy. And you know, the way Jubilee came in the first term, Jubilee came as a government of two people, the president and his deputy. And Jubilee came with the belief that they hold the whole country, they have won in the whole country, and they have the mandate to govern the whole country. And when you look at the geographical, at that time, that first term, the geographical presence was limited. Some parts of the country, Jubilee was not present. So we had a lot of fight inside Parliament and outside Parliament. And I can say we had 5 good years of battles. But in the end, we had a contest again in 2017.
I remember that sometimes in 2016, there was the beginning of the clamor for reforms with the IEBC on how election results are supposed to be transmitted. Tell me about that.
Actually, the clamor began in 2015 when Baba came back from Boston in the US. Baba, while you were away, the clamor began from that point. It started gaining momentum from that point. Then we ended up now going to IEBC, the Mondays, tear gas Mondays, where we were removing the previous IEBC members of Isaka San's team, and that took us all the way to the general election. It was not an easy road to travel, but we achieved a lot in terms of reforms.
How difficult was it for you in the opposition, because you're fighting a very, let me say, young leadership within the Jubilee, that is President Kenyatta and Deputy President UHURUTO, who appear to have such unity of purpose in how they spoke, how they did things, how they approached Kenyans. How difficult was it for you from the opposition?
I think Jubilee by then, they came with the notion that they have the mandate alone to govern the country, and they also believed that they have the numbers in Parliament by then. So they were using their numbers as a voting bloc other than an engagement bloc in Parliament. So many of the things they passed at that period of time was through Parliament by using numbers in Parliament, because they were calling them, you remember they used to be called tyranny of numbers then. So but as an opposition with fewer numbers than them, we could still stand up to them inside the House. For example, when they were passing the security amendment bills, when they were passing, some of the states of the national address of the president, that we feel many of the things that's happening in the country were not captured. All that was happening because that time Jubilee was not ready to listen to anyone. They didn't have time to listen to anyone. They were telling it is their way or the highway. They were telling us that way. And they thought that they don't need to be told anything. They will do whatever they want. They will govern the country in whichever manner they want. And that now precipitated what happened in the general election in 2017. The kind of division you saw in the country was a result of the way the country was governed for the first term of Jubilee, where nobody wanted to listen to the other. They were telling us that they have the numbers in Parliament. They were elected by the people of Kenya. And so that really divided the country in a bigger way. Yet
those who supported the Jubilee administration in the first term feel that that was the best run sort of government in their history of 8 years now.
That is the worst run government ever in Kenya. And it will remain so, in my opinion, because first you know that the president and his deputy were so much preoccupied with ICC issues. The first 2 years, it's like they didn't know what was happening in the country. And some other characters took advantage of that, including the deputy president himself.
How so?
Because some of the mega issues in form of corruption happened in that period of time. Some of the mismanagement of the economy happened at that time, that period of time. Now it's just what we are feeling today are the effects of the mismanagement that happened in the first term of Jubilee.
But how would you blame the deputy president, yet Uhuru Kenyatta was the president?
You see, he is the one who was being, I agree, they were together as president and deputy, but most of the things were being associated with him, either through in the press or in the public domain or in the public sphere. So he carried the bigger, blame in terms of press reporting that this thing is associated with the deputy president, that is associated with the deputy president. I'm basically basing my facts on that. Okay. But that regime, the first regime of Jubilee, is when Kenya lost track. Now what Uhuru is trying to do, the president is trying, is to return back the country on track, having realized that the first time the country was off the track.
And if it was off the track, and you're saying that the Jubilee came and they thought they had the mandate of managing the entire country, whose problem was it? Isn't it the president?
I think by then, they were together. They were one government, one more Jubilee government. So it is now that the president has realized that we need to do things differently. But you can see his deputy doesn't see it that way. He still believes things will continue the way they were in the first term. That clearly shows you where the problem lies.
What gives you that notion?
You can see the president is reaching out to other people. The president is trying to unite the country. The president is trying to address most of the development agenda that happened in this regime will be happening in the second term of Jubilee, not in the first term of Jubilee. Nothing much happened in the first term of Jubilee. Tell me one single project Jubilee.
No, they spoke about the SGR. They spoke about the last mile connectivity in electricity.
What last mile connectivity? Kenya Power is in the reds. It's dead. You are giving electricity to thatch grass houses when people in the cities don't have proper electrification. The SGR was completed at the tail end of the first term. The tail end, not at the beginning. So
but it was on a record time ahead of
any economic viability of the SGR can only be realized in the second term, not in the first term.
But I'm saying now, they were able to conclude the SGR project ahead of time.
Not really. The SGR project was conceptualized in the Kibaki regime, in the Grand Coalition government. Them they just implemented when they came into office.
And it succeeded.
Look, even in the SGR itself, when they did the SGR, it ended into nowhere at Naivasha. Now is when the president is connecting it with other parts of the country through the meter gauge railway. He's doing the meter gauge railway from Naivasha to Kisumu port. He's doing the meter gauge railway from Nairobi to Kinyanyuki. He's doing the meter gauge railway to, I don't know, Kitale or somewhere, I know, Malaba. That shows you that this is when serious thoughts are getting into issues. Unlike the first regime, when people were flamboyantly, you remember the flying, what were they called? The Sky Team. You remember? The Sky Team of 2015, 2016. They were hovering with choppers all over the country. That is when the country lost track.
It's interesting that you're a leader in parliament from the opposition party or the minority party, but you speak so positively about the government of the day, better than those that sit in it.
Myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see why I'm talking positively at the moment is because I can see some things happening. I can see some good things happening now. Unlike the first time when I could see this country is going down the drain. I could see the effects of the mismanagement of the economy in the first term now, but I can see there is intention and goodwill to rectify that. That's why you can see me saying that I can see some changes now going on. You can see the war on corruption, you can see the development that is... Time might not be there to achieve the Big Four agenda that the president wanted to achieve, but I can see now there is some semblance of good governance that is being, done. Let's
focus on the events of September 2016. I think it was September 10th, and the Jubilee Party, rather the Jubilee Coalition, collapsed every other party, bringing them into one. And at that time, you were still in CORD. You're still trying to figure out how you're going to approach the election. How much of that coming together of all the Jubilee parties affect your strategy within the opposition?
I think it did not affect us at the presidential level. We could still get the presidential votes that we needed to win an election, as much as we remained as separate parties, and Jubilee coming together as one party from out of 14 parties. What it affected us, where it affected us is at the parliamentary level, where Jubilee had one candidate in one constituency, and us, we had 4 candidates in one, or 5 candidates in one constituency, where ODM has a candidate, Wiper has a candidate, Fort Kenya, ANC, and CCM. And we lost many seats because of that, especially in the urban cities like Nairobi, and even some places like even Narok. You know, if you add the votes, the governor of ODM, the candidate for ODM, and the candidate for Chama Cha Mashinani got, they are way far ahead of what the candidate for Jubilee got. Mm-hmm. So it affected us in the lower seats: governor, member of parliament, senate, member of the National Assembly, and the MCA. Mm-hmm. But in terms of presidential level, it didn't affect us. So, and I don't think it was ideally good for Jubilee to collapse into one party, if you ask me, because you can see now it is going back to where it was. Because the coming together was not, the foundation was not based on ideology. It was based on winning an election.
Which they did.
Debatable. You remember the election was nullified by the Supreme Court, the first one. The repeat one, I didn't participate, so by and large.
But the president is in State House.
No, that I have no quarrel over that.
Gave that result.
I have no quarrel over that for now.
Majority of seats at the Senate and National Assembly.
That is true. I agree with you.
As well as governors.
That is, I agree with you. They have the majority seats in the National Assembly, in the Senate. But you can see the party itself. There were people inside that party who have different belief and ideology than what maybe the party leader envisaged when he was bringing the 14 parties together. There were people, maybe the leader maybe was thinking of forming one monolithic party to help him govern the country. But there are others maybe who are bringing this party together to win the next election.
Which one?
The 2022 election.
Who is that?
I'm saying there are members within that party whose belief and idea was, we form these 14 parties, we collapse these 14 parties into one, purposely for winning elections only. We use it to win the 2017 election, and we use it to win the 2022 election. They were not bringing these parties together for good governance of the country.
And that's what I'm asking.
And now it's apparent, you can see.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Who would have wanted to collapse all those parties for the sake of 2022?
I told you they had different, the people who came together. You remember the major parties that came together, TNA, URP. I don't remember when other serious party other than those, within those 14, but majorly those two parties, looks like they had different ideologies. One was coming in and collapsing the parties just to use it for winning elections. And one maybe was coming in to govern the country.
The leader of TNA was Uhuru Kenyatta. The leader of URP was William Ruto. Who are you talking about?
I am talking about those leaders. Now you want me to now say it openly.
Yes, because I need you to clarify.
Yeah, it looks like the leader of TNA wanted to collapse these parties so that they can have one strong party that governs the country as the ruling party, and then form another government at a later date. But the leader of URP party, I can see, maybe, I believe, his thoughts were, let's collapse these parties just for purposes of winning elections, 17. Because the moment they were done with 17, barely 3 months after that, the leader of URP by then was talking about winning the 22 elections. Tuunde serikali ya 2022. That was his slogan.
But political parties are free to have such kind of ideologies and
not when you are the
intentions.
Governing party. Not when you are the ruling party. The ruling party first must, implement the manifesto that he gave to the voters, or they gave to the voters.
But also look ahead.
Yeah, at a later date, when they have achieved certain aspects of their manifesto. They have work to do first. It's not just about elections. You are elected based on a manifesto that you would give to the people. So you must first deliver that manifesto. Then you can ask now for more time to rule the country. But you see some of them, after 3 months after the elections, they were running around the country.
For the National Super Alliance, and of course, I believe Parliament was sworn in on 20th of August 2017, and 3 days later, the Jubilee Party met at State House with the parliamentary group, and yourselves, you had your own forums. The Supreme Court says that the elections for the presidential election was not conducted in accordance with the law and therefore nullified. How did that change the focus of the opposition party then?
No, we were first, that day, I remember it was also an Eid day. We were praying, we were celebrating Eid. And after prayers is when I went to the city center. I met my party leader and others in the city center. They are going to the Supreme Court. And we were very excited about the ruling that happened that day, the nullification of the elections. And for once we saw and we got confidence in the institutions that run this country, the judiciary and other institutions that run this country. And but there were issues that were raised by the Supreme Court by then. They said the elections were not conducted properly, the 8th of August elections. There were irregularities and illegalities that were committed. So we approached IEBC, we told them, can you address those irregularities and illegalities? IEBC was adamant. They said, we have only 60 days to conduct another election. We have no time to listen to any stories. We will move forward. And if you want to participate in the elections, go ahead. If you are not interested, you can stay away. So we stayed away. We said, okay, what is the point of participating in an election that is going to be conducted in the same manner and form that was conducted in the previous one? So we opted out. But elections went ahead. You are aware certain parts of the country didn't participate. Like in my constituency, there was no election that participated. And the country was now, by and large, getting more divided. But after that, there were other steps that were taken that led to the famous handshake.
No, we will get to that. But first, let us reflect on the decisions that were made between September and October of 2017. And in as much as you say that there were some irreducible minimums you gave to IBC, eventually you made a decision not to participate in the election. There are several articles and books, or a book, that has been written about the proceedings of that time. And it appears that the decision not to participate in the election was solely made by your party leader, Raila Odinga, not really by the coalition partners.
So by and large, solely made by him because he was the presidential candidate. The other party leaders were not presidential candidates. The man whose name was on the ballot was him and his running mate. But basically, the person who was running for presidency was my party leader. So he ultimately, the final decision rests with him, whether he wants to run or not to run. So you can't blame him for making that decision. But it's not true also that he made that decision alone. I participated myself in a meeting where that discussion was done, and it was agreed that we need to not to participate.
Was it an ODM meeting or a NASA meeting?
No, it was a meeting consisting of other leaders and think tanks who are advising us on how we were handling our politics, including some of them now who have you know, a divergent view on how we are doing things. By then they were with us, and some of them are the ones who advised us not to participate in the election, and they know themselves.
So a meeting of ODM or NASA?
It was a meeting of NASA, and it was a meeting of NASA.
Who from the other parties outside ODM were in attendance?
I can't honestly remember very well now. I need to check back. But I remember attending a meeting where lawyers were present, some economists now who are now saying that ODM is no longer viable were there.
Are you talking about David Ndii?
Yes, David Ndii was with us he was one of the think tanks that were advising Raila then.
Was Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula in attendance?
I am not sure, honestly, because it's a long period. But I'm sure.
No, but you remember David Ndii was there.
But I'm sure, even if some of them were not present in that meeting, I am sure they knew that we are not They were updated. They were put into. They were told that we are not going to participate in that election. But I told you in the end that the final decision belongs to the candidate. Okay. You know, whether I want to run in Suna East or not in the next election, it depends on me. As much as I have a committee or I have people who are helping me, it is me who's going for the wedding. So it is me to decide whether I need to marry or not to marry. Yet, it is irrelevant what somebody else tells me.
Yet the Supreme Court found the decision of your party leader to withdraw from that election not consequential on the validity of the election of October 26th.
Yeah, but you see, under what context? You remember, that was a Supreme Court that by then...
it was the same Supreme Court that gave you a favorable ruling.
I'm not saying that. I am not. I agreed. I support that. I accept the decision that they have made. Okay. I'm not saying that the decision is. I didn't appeal again, or I didn't say. But not necessarily doesn't mean that I support the ruling, or that not necessarily means that I agree with the ruling in terms of the way it was done. But it is binding. I see it as a binding ruling by the Supreme Court. But between the two elections. Mm-hmm. A lot of things have happened, and you are. Okay. I'm sure you're in Jerusalem by then. You are not. You're not living in Damascus.
I was not a stranger.
You're not a stranger.
So really, after that decision of the Supreme Court that said that President Kenyatta was validly elected, and now you're on a mission of the resist movement. That the president has said that it was clear that the country was divided. Don't you think you are responsible for all the atrocities that occurred between the 26th of October until the swearing in, the infamous swearing in of Raila Odinga?
Not at all, completely. You know, this is a democratic country. This is a country that is governed by the rule of law and the Constitution. If certain group of people are dissatisfied and they want to vent their dissatisfaction by either picketing or demonstrating and not causing any harm to any property or human life, I think they should have been allowed to do what they feel like doing. Look at what you are calling the infamous swearing in, for example. That's a good example. Uhuru Park was packed to the brim. It was full. When the security people, the police left and the swearing event happened, people walked back to their homes. Did you see any destruction? Did you see any fight? Did you see anybody who has lost life that day? So that tells you where the problem lies. For example, one day my party leader was coming back from a trip. I think he went to the US. And we went to receive him at the airport. And we were blocked by the police at the airport. I asked them why. We have come to receive our party leader. From the airport, we were again blocked at Uhuru Highway, at Mombasa Road. We used industrial area through Likoni Road, through Lusaka, Jogo Road. Between Mombasa Road and Jogo Road, at the end of Jogo Road, near where Landis Mosque is, I think we lost 18 people in between. Why 18 people? 18 people lost their lives.
That's from your count or from official count?
No, even the official count. It was known. Now we're asking, we are just making a procession from the airport to Uhuru Park, which would have taken us not more than 20 minutes. Why do you block people? Why don't you just allow them to go? And they pass, they go away.
Honorable Junet, let's clarify that you say 18 people died on that day.
18 people.
Do you have the names?
Yes. You remember, we even paraded coffins in front of, 35 coffins in front of City Mortuary, you remember? 35 coffins one morning. The media was there.
I remember those images.
That 18 were part
I'm just
of
wondering, 18
that
people...
18 were part of that 35. And everyone was taken by their family members, taken away to their home to be buried.
And when all
so when the state makes a contest confrontational, you'll see the other also group reacting and taking a confrontational stand.
Honorable Junet, do you think the events at Uhuru Park on the 31st of January 2018 if I'm not mistaken, on the date. Do you think they were legal?
You can, you know, there is freedom of assembly, freedom of association. There's the Constitution, the Bill of Rights has given rights.
So where is the oath taken by Raila Odinga? Where is it covered in the Constitution?
Why was he not taken to court then, if it was not constitutional?
No,
I'm asking you.
Just respond to the question.
No, I'm asking you. If it was constitutional, why was he?
We know that there are several people that were actually arraigned, including Miguna, TJ Kajwang.
TJ's case has been dismissed by the court.
So the question I'm asking you, do you think that event was legal?
Yeah, it was
illegal?
a legal gathering.
Covered by what?
Covered by the Bill of Rights under the freedom of association. Even
if it's not constitutional?
Which part of the Constitution did they break, according to you? Because you're the one who thinks that it was unconstitutional.
These are not my thoughts. You're talking about facts.
Yeah, I'm saying which
the oath he took as people's president. Yes. Who is people's president in the Constitution, really? If you're to
But the people voted for him. So the people, 8 million people voted. But how did IEBC declared how many votes for him? 6, 7, or 7 million?
In the repeat election, I don't remember.
No, in the first election.
There were not more than 500,000.
No, in the second repeat election, he did not participate. But in the first election...
But the first election was nullified.
No, but at least there were votes that were declared by IEBC. There were around 6 or 7 million people. Those are people. That's what's called the people's president.
Don't you think? don't you think you are to blame for the chaos that were witnessed and even the deaths that occurred during that time?
Not at all. Not at all. Completely. You know, I have participated in those demonstrations. There's a time we'll even tell the police that we want to move from this point to that point, and at the place where we are assembling, either at Orange House or at Capitol Hill, my party leader's office, you'll find police surrounding it before even we leave the place. Now the whole thing begins from confrontation.
And Honorable Junet, we've been seeing similar images recently when the Public Order Act was declared that it's going to be operationalized. And we saw meetings of the Deputy President in Nyamira having such kind of, actually more political presence, I mean police presence. Do you think that is right?
No, it is not right. The Deputy President should be allowed to visit any part of the country to picket and to demonstrate. But the funny part of it, when we were demonstrating during our days, he used to call us militia. This militia must be, he's on record. This militia must be dealt with. This militia must be handled properly by the police, on record. He is one of the people who really fought for the passage of the amendment bill by his foot soldiers in Parliament. We know each other. Now, you see, when the shoe is on the other side of the leg, now you start crying foul.
But you've not been speaking about it
when
it was happening.
No, I don't need to speak loudly. Neither did I support it. Did I say what the police, like what he did? I never said what the police is doing is right. I want everyone to be accorded his freedoms in accordance with the Constitution. And the Deputy President, I hope he has learned lessons from what he went through those police, actions at Nyamira.
When you say that, then it appears like it's not necessarily about the rule of law and good politics. It appears like people getting at each other because probably they change how they feel about you.
No, I have not supported anybody to disrupt his rallies, either by the police or otherwise. I'm saying he should be given he should be given enough space to do his politics in accordance with the Constitution. I will not support police to stop any of his rallies at all.
Come March 9th, 2018, and Raila Odinga and President Kenyatta are the steps of Harambee House, and you're part of the people that are behind there. Why did this happen, and how did that decision get arrived at, despite what he had witnessed weeks and months before?
I think that decision was done by the two leaders themselves. That question, can be properly answered by themselves, because they're the ones who made the ultimate decision to meet and shake hands and move forward. But by and large, I believe it was a good decision. I support it because it was good for the country, not for themselves alone. And these are leaders who had very serious and bitterly contested election. One getting 40-something%, the other one 50, almost +1. And
it was actually 54.
no, 54 were governors. Him, he got 50.7 something. Then it became 51. Check your records. Okay, the second repeat election, he got 70. That one now is a different matter.
And it was actually higher than that.
Yeah, or 80, I think. So, but I'm talking about the first election. So you know very well, the election was bitterly contested. The country was almost by and large divided in the middle. Many parts of the country didn't support him. So I think it was great wisdom for the president to approach his competitor and his competitor to accept to meet the president and agree that the country is bigger than both of them. The country belongs to 47 million Kenyans, and we need to move forward. Life does not begin and end at elections. There is life after elections. So that was a great day for this country, and it will be remembered in the history of this country that Kenyans can bitterly, fight over an election and move on after that.
When you say fight, you mean?
Okay, disagree and bitterly contest, like what happened in 2017.
Not necessarily armed fight.
No.
Or violence.
Not at all.
Okay, so if that decision is what has caused the troubles within the administration now, the Jubilee administration, do you still think it was a good thing? Because you have a team that worked together in the first term, and now they're not exactly singing the same song.
You see, when you are looking at the interest of the country, the interest of the country is bigger than individual interests. Within Jubilee, there are people maybe who feel that this handshake is going to stop them from becoming president in 2022. That's why you are seeing the bitterness in them that why did the handshake happen? But I was shocked the other day when I watched the president at Bomas of Kenya when he was launching this draft, the second report. He said his deputy was aware of all his actions relating to the handshake. He's been updating him, he has been briefing him. Even this task force that went round, they formed the committee from their side together. That really, inspired me that the differences we see in Jubilee and the blame that we are hearing it is about the handshake is just about personal interest that is making some people, not support the handshake. So, according to me, the handshake is good for the country.
Right. Let me just clarify this, because if the decision for President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga to come together, the BBI process, never mind the deputy president is said to have been involved or informed from the start, do you think it's a good thing for how governments are run, that you'll find the deputy and the president are divided? Is it the ideal situation that you'd want to see even if your party was to join government or to form government?
You see, your boss remains your boss until the end of his term. And you must align your thoughts and ideologies with his at all time. If your boss has told you time for politics is not yet, you should not do it. You should listen to him. If he tells you our priorities at this time at this point in time is this, you should follow that. You cannot dictate or direct what your boss should do. It should be the other way around. So as far as I know, because I don't belong, I'm not part of government as we speak, I'm in the opposition, because I'm in the minority party, my party leader has not joined government, I am in parliament as minority party. But what I read from the news is a deputy president who has defied every order that is given by his party, by his boss. His boss said that we should not do early campaigns. You see him all over the country campaigning.
But there are those that say that he has not campaigned for any seat yet.
He has, every rally he goes, he either tells the people, the community is addressing that this coming round 2022 we must, lazima tuunde serikali pamoja. That's the words he likes using, tuunde serikali pamoja. Or his foot soldiers, surrogates, will be saying that 2022 it will be him. He'll be the president.
So for those that argue that it's not him specifically campaigning for his candidature in 2022, what do you say to that?
Unless you are blind or deaf in this country, it is a fact that the deputy president has been campaigning the last 7 years actually, not even 3 or 2 years. the deputy president has been running the longest presidential campaign ever seen in the continent of Africa. Nobody has ever campaigned for presidency at a go for a period of 7 years, non-stop.
Isn't that about presence, political presence? Because the campaign period will be declared by IBC.
When your boss is present. Look at, for example, we are in a presidential system of government now. And we copied it from America. In America, do you hear Pence or you hear Trump? You hear Trump all the time. You don't hear Pence, the deputy president. He has to wait until his time comes. You can't overrun your boss the way the deputy president was trying to do. In fact, there is an analogy the president gave the other day that made me laugh. He's saying this is like a relay, race where you are supposed to hand over a baton. But when the person you're supposed to hand over to is running to the opposite direction, now what do you what do you do? That's really summarized, I think, what's happening in Jubilee. I don't need to add anything to it as an outsider in the opposition. The president, the party leader, puts it in a proper context and said, the problems we are having in Jubilee is that I wanted to hand over to my deputy, but he's running to the wrong direction. So I have to wait until he realizes that that direction is not where we are supposed to go, it is the other way.
But what does that, the divide we see, what does it do to political ambitions? Because, I mean, you're a politician, you have your own ambitions, there's where you want to go in your career. But is that good for ambitions? But
ambitions are personal. They're never collective. If you want to become president, it's your own problem. You should not expect somebody to carry you on his back. So you cannot say, because we formed a party together and we formed government together, after you I must become president. I think Kenya now has since independence, has had more than 7 vice presidents. And none of them was helped by the president who was there to become president. Each one of them, maneuvered his own ways to become president, like Kibaki, who was a vice president of Moi, and he ended up becoming president on his own way by bringing other parties together. So if there's somebody who thinks that here is like, a monarchy, where when the king dies or leaves office, you take over, then you're in the wrong business. That's not politics. So I think the deputy president should look for ways and means to become president other than waiting for him to be anointed by the ruling party or by the government. Let's
talk about what we've witnessed in this second term of the Jubilee administration. The handshake and the sort of division it has caused in the administration. I'm sure you don't deny that. Is it a good thing for political ambitions? Because politicians have interests. They come together for interests. So when an outsider comes and rocks the boat and leads you to where we are, is it a good thing for ambitions?
You see, political ambitions, first I told you, are personal. If you want to run for president or for a governor, it's a personal decision you make. And it requires personal initiative and efforts for you to achieve that. It's not collective, that somebody must make you governor or president. Secondly, I don't know what you mean by an outsider rocking. Jubilee is intact as they were elected. Nobody has joined their government. They never shared with anyone their government. For the last 4 years, they have been ruling this country or so. So nobody's inside them. It's only that within Jubilee, people have different ideology. Especially when your ideology is contrary to the party leader and the boss of the government of the day that you are in it. The honorable thing is just to leave and let him run his government. But if you think you want to oppose him from inside, that's now an internal affair. That's an internal issue. You cannot blame it on somebody who's outside just watching what you're doing. And I told you that...
Just watching or engaging your party leader?
No, just watching.
Raila Odinga has not just been watching, has been engaging the party leader on different agenda, including the BBI.
No, the only engagement that I know that is between my party leader and the president is the Building Bridges initiative, which is premised on the memorandum that outlines the 9-point agenda. Anything outside that are rumors. The only engagement they have is Building Bridges initiative. how to unite the country using the building bridges. That's all.
So for those that feel that
so
this
if
is...
you are threatened by that, then it shows you how, in the first place, you opposed the plans of your boss, your party leader.
Because it was not in the Jubilee Manifesto anyway.
No.
So when...
It was. Jubilee has been telling us they want to unite the country. They want to have a united country.
I'm saying that is true, but Building Bridges initiative, reaching out to Raila Odinga, was never in the Jubilee Manifesto. At least we can agree on that. It's not part of the Big Four agenda.
But
we can agree
the
on
early
that.
campaigns also was not part of the Jubilee Manifesto. To start campaigning for presidency 4 years before the election, I didn't see it in the Jubilee Manifesto.
Okay.
I did not see that.
So, Honorable Junet, you live in this country, and I consider you as one who knows quite a lot of things politically. You've been observing what has been happening in the Jubilee administration, and don't tell me you don't sit in cabinet, because you know of the executive order #1 of 2018 that made CS Matiang'i to be chairing the cabinet committee and also coordinating government. And that essentially has been mentioned by many to have edged out the deputy president on what he would have been doing in cabinet. What are your thoughts about that?
You see, first, the executive order #1 is the most consequential, order that has happened in this Jubilee regime. The most important thing, the takeaway from Jubilee, when I came to realize Jubilee is serious about governance, is when I saw that executive order #1. That's when I agreed and accepted that Jubilee now wants to govern the country well. Why do I say so? You see, the functions of the deputy president are stipulated in the constitution. Basically, he's the principal deputy of the president, and he deputizes the president and helps the president run his government, and waits for instructions or any other duties that is going to be given to him by the president. But now, outside that, the government needed somebody to coordinate its functions and supervise its functions at a lower level, not at the presidency level. Because Jubilee was in a situation in their first term of office where the right hand did not know what the left hand was doing.
Which hand is which now?
You can interpret it the way you want.
No, you're here. I'm asking you the question.
No, I've told you the right hand did not know what the left hand was doing. You take it that way.
I don't think so, because the people you've spoken to feel
now,
that
you believe. Let me finish.
Let me cut it short.
Let me finish. Okay. Now the president has to come with a decision. To help him and his government to know what the right hand is doing and the left hand is doing together, so that they can move in one direction. That is what the executive order is all about.
But it appears it's about fingers now, not exactly about hands. And the reason I say this is because now it appears the deputy president has not been given any instructions or assignments to execute, or if they have been, they are very few after that executive order of 2018.
I'm not in government, but what I know about the structure of government as is stipulated in the constitution, you see, the committee that was formed through that executive order is doing is like what a subcommittee of the cabinet is doing. So whatever that committee decides, the decision they arrive at is taken to the cabinet, where the president and his deputy are members. So the deputy president is aware of what's happening in government by virtue of sitting in the cabinet that's chaired by the president, and is the deputy president. So how do you feel left out when every decision achieved through that committee is taken to a higher committee where you sit?
Honorable Junet, does it bother you that sometimes, I think it was in September, some cabinet secretaries met in Kajiado, and one of them said that the deputy president is nothing but a clerk? Does it bother you?
No, it doesn't at all, because, you see, we have also seen scenarios that are disturbing in our country, where you have a deputy president who in one occasion or in one function speaks as government, stipulates government functions, stipulates government's ideas and decisions. Some of them arrived at the higher level, at the cabinet level, and find him in another function, maybe even in the same day in the afternoon, you know, attacking the same government where is the deputy, and giving instructions to, you know, civil servants, telling them to disobey certain orders, saying the provisional administration should not be misused, the police should not take instructions from so and so, certain unlawful orders. We don't expect that to be.
But is it not true that they should not be misused? No, they should not take unlawful orders?
No, he's the deputy president. He doesn't need to lament like the way Junet laments in a funeral. Yet because I'm not in government.
Yet
if
today
I'm the deputy president of Kenya, I will not lament in funerals.
Honorable Junet, much of the work appears to be being done by the committee chaired by CS Matiang'i.
But I've told you, as a parliamentarian who oversights the executive, what I know, those decisions achieved in that committee is taken to the cabinet, where the deputy president is a member.
And he has no vote. I mean, if a decision has already been made by the cabinet secretaries and they're briefing the president, what voice does he have?
I assume that is another higher level of a meeting where people engage and discuss and decisions are made. Nothing stops him from airing his views at that meeting, unless now he wants to come down and chair a subcommittee when he's the part of the presidency. You know, you don't forget the deputy president is part of the presidency. Yeah, don't forget that.
Yet you tell me that the right hand does not know what the left hand is
Correct.
doing.
Now, that is why this committee was brought now.
So do you think the Jubilee administration in the second term is doing what it should be doing in the best way that a government needs to be run?
Actually, they are doing far much better in this second term than their first term. The Jubilee government lost 5 good years in their first term, if you ask me. And I'm sure wherever they are, they must be regretting. The little they have achieved in the last 2 years is far much bigger than what the amount of time they lost in their first term. Their first term, I think they got lost in the trappings of power. They thought maybe this is something that is not time bound. They will be there ever and ever. But in this second term, I can see a few achievements that you can take home.
I find that interesting because you're the same person who says that the left hand does not know what the left one is doing, but you also rate them as being very successful.
No, but you see, now the executive order came in the second term. So that's when the left hand now knows what the right hand is doing or what the right hand is doing.
Okay,
in the second term.
Let's talk about the Building Bridges initiative and the report that has come out. And again, you see the fissures within government, because here is Uhuru Kenyatta working together with his brother Raila Odinga. I say that because that's what they call each other. But you also have a deputy president who is of different opinion that yes, you may want to make changes, but you have to open the document for more consultation. Where does that leave the process?
You know, me, I really get surprised when I see people saying that we must have consensus in this document. You must take the views of everyone. That is not what a referendum is about. And that is not what the Constitution, in terms of the provision, that is the provisions that are there, in terms of amending the Constitution, is all about. This Constitution can be amended by anyone, including you, if you want. What do? You have 2 choices. If you are a member of parliament like me, you can use parliamentary initiative to amend the Constitution. If you're not a member of parliament, you have the popular initiative. You write down the issues that you think are not good in this Constitution. Put them in the form of a bill. Collect 1 million signatures. Take it to IBC. Get 24 counties to agree with you. And then you take it to a referendum for Kenyans to agree with you or not to agree with you. For example, in the 2010 referendum that passed the Constitution that we are using today, only 67% of Kenyans agreed with it, of the people who voted. 33% did not agree with this Constitution. Are you saying that those 33 were not important? And those 33 included the deputy president of today, included the church that was then there, like they are today, and they said we don't agree with this Constitution. There are elements and aspects of this Constitution that we don't want. So, you can carry as many views as possible. You can try to engage and, so that you get higher threshold at the referendum. But there is no obligation that you must carry everybody's views. Then there is no need of having a referendum.
But don't
a
you
referendum is a form of democratic, exercise that gives people authority to decide in one way or the other.
But don't you think that goes against the same
So
spirit?
if 99% of Kenyans today say yes, and 1% say no in the referendum, that 1% are also Kenyans. But the majority will have their way, and the minority will have their say in terms of their 1%.
But Honorable
And
Junet,
lastly,
right.
this issue of the way you told me we need to carry the views of the deputy president. First, referendum. Kenya had many referendums. In 2005, Kenya rejected a proposal of a constitution. In 2010, they approved. Now, this is a process, for example, the BBI, that has taken 2 years to collect views from people. These people whom you are saying now that they should be given an avenue to express their views, this task force was sitting all over the country, including KICC. You refuse to appear before them. You say this is an illegal entity. I don't agree with the way they were constituted. At the tail end of the process, you come from nowhere and you say, no, my views must be accommodated. Nobody has refused for you to do your own amendments. Even Okuro Okot tried. He brought a bill. Any Kenyan can bring a bill to amend the constitution through a people. Even Okuro Okot, you can go Okuro Okot way. If you feel there are compelling issues that have not been captured in this process, nobody has denied you the opportunity to come up with your own bill.
Respecting the office of the deputy president.
Which office?
The office he holds. He is the deputy president of the republic.
I know.
Isn't he?
Yes.
So respecting the office that he occupies, was he ever invited to the BBI task force to
Why
air
should he
his
be
views?
invited? The BBI task force was a public forum that anybody can go. If you had any issues that you felt that need to be accommodated, need to be listened to, you don't need to be invited.
Is it fair expectation?
You go walk there yourself, the way other Kenyans have done, and you say, in my opinion, Kalonzo Musyoka appeared before there, gave his views, Musalia Mudavadi gave his views. Those are also leaders of this country. You don't need to be invited.
Is it fair expectation to have the elected deputy president getting to the BBI task force to air his views?
This is a national exercise that is going to change the way the government that the document that we use to govern ourselves as a country. It's not executive work where he's the boss. This is a task force that is collecting people's... He could even as well invite them to his office. He could talk to them. It's a choice. But you can't just say, I'm going to wait until at the tail end of the process, and I will say my views were not... Your views are not superior to the views of the Mokokoteni guy or the Mamamboga. In terms of constitutional making, all those views are equal. None is superior to the other.
When you look at the remaining 20 months to the expiry of the Jubilee administration's term,
Yes.
What do you think are the must-wins during that period of time?
I think Jubilee, I think the president should continue with what he's doing because he has shown, clear indications that he wants to take the country forward, economically, socially, even politically through the BBI, in terms of uniting the country together. That requires his leadership. That requires his involvement. And those gains must be quickly, put in place and cemented. The unity of the country. The president will not be remembered by the number of roads he has built, by the SGR, by the number of new units of homes that he has built for the homeless, by the what is called these last mile connections. All that will not be remembered. What he'll be remembered for as his legacy is when he leaves one indivisible, united and prosperous country, that all communities live together as Kenyans. That is one of the most important things he will be remembered for. The other things he will be remembered for still, but they are secondary. The primary one will be when he leaves, his term of office comes to an end, and he goes to retirement. He left a country that is united, that's at peace at each other, and living together, irrespective of who is the next president. Doesn't matter. That's what is remembered.
And how will he achieve that?
But through the Building Bridges initiative. But some of his people within his party are not seeing that. They are seeing this as an obstacle to them getting into power for their own selfish interest.
And that is why, because earlier on you told me that we should never again have such a contest like was in 2017.
Yes.
So that even if you have elections, you may disagree but don't get violent or doing the kind of things that were done. This BBI process, will it cure that? Because already there are disgruntled voices that are saying...
Let me tell you something. This thing will cure that. First, one of the issues that was written in the Memorandum of Understanding between the two leaders was inclusivity. Look, this country, since independence, was governed by two communities at the higher level. It's for a fact. Let's not, beat around the bush. The president and the deputy president. It went all the way up to now. Still, the president and the deputy president remain the same, from the same communities. And I'm not saying those communities don't deserve to lead the country. They have all rights in the constitution, even in the next election, to lead the country. But now you have two people at the top high level making decision. Now BBI is proposing that we have a president, deputy president, the prime minister, and two deputies. That will be the top making decision, organ in the country, for example, in the cabinet. There is no way all those five will come from the same community or communities that have governed this country previously. Maybe two of them can be from the same community. The other three will be different communities. Then you go to the cabinet. That is already some improvement in terms of inclusivity. It might not be the end to it, but it is a beginning.
So in a situation where...
So this BBI is we need to look beside the politics that people are propagating. Oh, it's about giving people power. It's about... Even the person who's opposing it, like the deputy president, he is also gunning for office to get into power. If power is not good, why can't he give it to somebody else himself? So there are issues addressed in this BBI that is going to help this country move forward. And the process is as simple as anything else. It's just a matter of this document being subjected to a referendum. People will walk in the morning to the polling stations. They will say yes. Others will say no. If no is the majority, the document is lost. People want to live with the constitution as it is now. If yes is the majority, people want those changes in... That is, it's as simple as that. Then after that, anybody who wants to become president, anybody who wants to become prime minister, will come out and say, now that there's a prime minister position in this country, I am taking it now as Junet Mohamed. That is the way mature democracies work.
So if that document is defeated at a referendum,
yes,
does it erode President Kenyatta's legacy?
No, it doesn't at all. It's just one of his, issues that Kenyans have disagreed with him. That's all. It's just part of the issues that he has been doing to run the country and to help advance the agenda of the country, like the Big Four agenda, like the SGR. Kenyans might be happy with the SGR, but they may not be happy with the low-cost housing. So this is just views of Kenyans being sought, being asked Kenyans, what do you think of this?
Honorable Junet Mohamed, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much
for speaking to us.
Asante sana.
All right.
Thank you so much.